Girl in the Ashes. Chapter 5. It's noon and Prince Edward's servant should be here. I would have been pacing around by the front door, but Tessa and Clara keep me busy switching their hairstyles. They are even more excited than they were when they came home from the ball. The two girls dance with Prince Edward for 2 dances, and I can tell it's the truth. They beam with great joy and pride even now. I just hope that the house is clean enough. I made sure each floor of the house is spotless. We ran out of apples, and I want you to make your mother's apple pie for dinner tonight. It will surely impress Prince Edward's assistant. We'll get the door, so don't worry about it. I just want the apples. The girls can finish dressing, Lady Harriet says to me. I put Tessa's brush down and bow. Yes, my lady. Clara watches me leave the room. I flash her a smile to let her know I'm doing all right and that she shouldn't worry. I take a big woven basket and head outside to the apple trees. I start picking from the closest tree to the house from its low branches. Most of the apples on the trees are small and don't ripen, but this tree always seems to produce the best fruit. From the other side of the house, I hear a couple of horses and the sound of carriage wheels. Prince Edward's servant must be here now. I'm curious to find out who it might be, but I hold my ground. I need to pick these apples. My determination grows. I want the finest apples on this tree, which means I must reach higher. That would also mean I'd have a reason to climb the trunk. No biggie there. I am dying to act as I did when I was a child. Plus, I get to throw the apples down into the basket. It is a game I shall cherish in the dull life I am to live. Soon I don't even look at where the basket is. I simply toss the apples right over my shoulder. I climb higher when I spot the perfect apple. It had no wormholes, dents, or any sign of rotting. Amisher might as well bow down to such an apple. This would impress Prince Edward, I'm sure, to have a fine apple cooked into a pie for him. He won't be tasting it, however, but that's his fault for not coming to the houses himself. I remember when he tried following me up the nearby oak tree. For whatever reason, I can't help but smile. Then I recall how we danced with his face covered in manure. Of course, it only ended in his father, the king, getting upset with me. The last time I saw the prince's face, he stared at me in a way I can only describe as wonder. Shaking my head, I snap out of the memory. He gave me that look 7 years ago. By now, he's given plenty of girls far prettier than me the same stare. According to Tessa and Clara, he has the dreamiest brown eyes with flecks of gold. That only proves my point. He gives every girl he meets that look. He will always be a prince who couldn't care less about how he throws around his charming smile and gorgeous eyes. I pick an apple and throw it hard toward the ground. My mind wanders to Aaron. Thankfully, I haven't run into him, but I never figured out if he was Prince Edward or a servant as he claimed. Regardless, he or his friend must have been the prince, which means the prince has no idea who I am. Why would he remember me? Well, I guess it would be hard to forget a girl who tricked you into running through horse feces. I quietly snicker. Finally, I reach the perfect apple near the top. I pick it off the branch and make sure it's truly the best. It shows no sign of flaw, so I climb back down with it. I didn't want to throw this beauty. As I get to the lower section of the tree, I think about jumping off. I think better of it as I hear a voice from below. Wouldn't it be easier to use a ladder? I'm surprised by the sudden outburst and stumble down the rest of the tree, still holding the apple. To maintain balance, my feet tread backward. Someone steadies me from behind, holding onto my shoulders to set me in balance, but quickly lets go. I turn around to see a face I wish I wouldn't have to encounter again, Aaron's. I should have predicted this outcome. He was parading Prince Edward around at the market. Why wouldn't he be Prince Edward's personal servant? If he wasn't the prince himself, that is. I should have known it would be you. Shouldn't you be inside monitoring the ladies of the house? I ask, a hint of distaste in my mouth. He grins, all too pleased with himself. Prince Edward is well acquainted with those lovely ladies. He already favors them compared to others, so the need to spend time monitoring them isn't as crucial. Besides, I hear more about the ladies through the house servants. I have to admit, I didn't think you were a servant when we met, Elena. I turn away and set the perfect apple in the basket, well I am now, which has some benefits. For starters, I don't have to attend high society events. When I turn back around with the basket, he's moved closer. The basket brushes his wrinkle-free uniform. Right, you don't want anything to do with the king. Marrying his charming son with all the gold you could possibly want sounds like a nightmare. Slipping past him, I say that would be correct. He follows me. You haven't told me about the household. I continue to walk. Tessa is cute at times, but she's got the wrong idea of what a lady is. If I was Prince Edward, I would choose Clara. She's kind and doesn't act as helpless as Tessa manages to do. And what about the third lady of the house, Ella? The prince knew this household better than most, he says, stopping. I stop as well and turn around to look him straight in the eye. Her parents are both dead. What do you think happened? She's a servant, thanks to the prince's father, so I doubt she would want anything to do with him. He should realize not many orphans like the royal family. I like them, but they do have their bad moments, Aaron says. I turn back around and walk forward, only because you've got the best position as a servant, who's treated fairly. You sound like Ella, at least how the prince described her. No bother saying what she wants. Being silent and delicate isn't her style. That's why I'm so enthralled by you. You would be the second girl the prince and I have encountered that act like this. Still ladylike in ways, but yearn to be more. I turn around to him once again. Why do you pretend you know her and I know His Highness, Prince Edward? And clearly you haven't gone outside of Amishire because there are plenty of girls like me out there. Why do you say Prince Edward's name so grandly if you don't like him? He counterattacks. Believe it or not, every girl dreams of becoming a princess. Naturally, the only way that can happen is by marrying Prince Edward, so I thought I liked him. But then I realized that look of his he gives to every single girl. Tessa and Clara both got that look at the ball. They told me and they were sickly in love with him even more, not even thinking about how they both received such a precious gaze. A stare of that kind should only be for one person. And I suppose you'd like that to be you? Aaron chimes in. I huff and swerve around to the back door, leading into the kitchen. He follows after me. I'm really starting to question Aaron. First, he acts like he's interested in me. Now he suggests that I want Prince Edward's love. Didn't I just state why I didn't like the prince? Did Aaron forget already that I'm a servant? And what's up with bringing me Ella up? I carry the basket into the kitchen. He's still behind me. I set the basket down and grill him. Why are you following me? A part of the arrangement is helping out around the house. You're going to see me a lot since Prince Edward knows this household will get accepted on his list. What do you need help with, madam? He says, addressing me in the same way he did before with romantic interest. We need some wood for the fireplace. There are some logs outside that are too big to fit, but I'm sure you could chop them into smaller pieces, I say, only thinking about it because it would get him out of the kitchen. Aaron nods, starting to walk back to the door. He stops a moment and turns around. I know whatever he's about to do can't be good, so I start working on the apples. I got out a knife and cutting board. I chopped the first apple in half. You know, I never got to properly say goodbye to you that day, he says, coming closer. I don't say anything. You said you didn't know what I meant, but I think you do. He reaches over towards my left hand, which isn't holding the knife. Smart move on his part. If he reached for my right, I'd probably end up slicing his finger. Okay, I wouldn't do that, but it would put me in a tempting position, like pushing someone off a high cliff. His fingers gently brush against mine, ready to lift my hand to his lips. I quickly move my left hand away before I find myself enjoying it. I hold the apple to keep it in place as I chop. His hand drops to his side as I say, please don't. I'm not starting anything with anyone. Not right now. He looks deep into my eyes and whispers, if that's what you wish. I'll start working on the wood. I stop him before he leaves the room, just bring the wood inside. I lied about it needing to be chopped. He nods and walks quietly out of the room. I breathe normally when he's gone. This is what I was afraid of the first time when he wanted a proper goodbye. The rush of an emotion that is yet to be called love, but wanting to see if it could be. As of now, I'm not ready to fall in love. I already feel guilty enough for the quick dismissal of father's death, but perhaps that's only because I feel like he's still on his trip. Carefully I cut the next apple, then the next, and the next until there's no room left on the cutting board. I get out a bowl to store the apple slices so I have room on the cutting board. Aaron comes back in with the wood. He says nothing as he sets the wood in the fireplace. I continue to cut. I hear him kneel down and try to start a fire. I look through the apples cut in the bowl. There's enough to make the pie, so I decide to save the rest for eating regularly. I feel the heat of the newly lit fire as I lift the bowl. Aaron's face is what I first see when I turn around, ramming right into him. We both lose our balance, and the bowl slips through my hands, almost crashing to the floor. Aaron catches it, and he hands it back to me. "Thank you," I say softly, not looking into his eyes. I then go around him and set the bowl on the other table right next to the fireplace. In the cabinet above me, I get out the flour and all the other ingredients to make the crust of the pie. At the corner of my eye, I see Aaron fumble for words. "Aaron? Are you in here?" Tessa's voice asks as we see her peeking through the doorway. "Oh, helping our maid, I see. My mother would like to speak with you." He smiles, of course. He looks over at me and nods, "Good day." He walks past Tessa. Her eyes follow him out the door, then back to me. "How do you know him? And what did you say to him?" Tessa presses me. I answer her questions honestly. "I met him at the market, but he thinks my name is Elena. Please don't tell him otherwise. Anyway, I told him you are wonderful girls, and he decided he would hang around me since you made such a good impression. He sees no reason to take further notes." Tessa smiles. "Things are looking better already. Can you imagine it? Queen Tessa. I shall thank our father tonight in my prayers." She walks off, her blonde curls bouncing after her. I shake my head and go back to making the crust. When the crust is done, I lay it in a pie pan and cut the extra dough off. I take a fork and use it to design the edges. After that, I mixed all of Mother's secret ingredients with the apples and put that mixture in the pie crust. I'm surprised when someone puts the top layer over the mixture of apples. It's Clara. She beams when I stare at her. "Thought you could use some help with dinner. You should have started with that first before the pie," she says. "The pie takes longer to bake. Besides, I already prepared the main course earlier today. It just needs to be warmed above the fire, which Aaron kindly made for me," I say, placing the pie on a peel and sliding it in the little oven. "Aaron is handsome, isn't he? Almost makes me want to quit on the prince and run off with him instead. Then I remind myself that Prince Edward is a sweetheart and just as handsome. Aaron seems interested in you, though. Have you met him before?" I sigh. Why is he so obvious about it? "Yes, I met him at the market when I went out with Neriel. But Neriel called me Elena since I didn't want him to know my name." "You're that scared of love?" "No, I'm not scared of love. Just not ready for it." "When was anyone ready? Our parents certainly weren't ready to move on so quickly. Your father wanted to fall in love with my mother slowly and with time, yet it was all so fast and unexpected. I suppose, but who is to say that Aaron and I will fall in love? He's annoying and can't take a hint, plus there's something weird about him. So what does it matter? If you're not afraid, then why not at least be friends with him?" Wise words. But who is to say I'll see him again? Tessa already told me Prince Edward favors us, which means Aaron isn't going anywhere soon. Never can end the conversation, I say, taking the pot of soup out from the flames with a cooking mitten. "Tell the others dinner is ready." With a smile, she goes off to tell them. I take that time to set the table in the dining room and bring in the soup. The pie should be done by the time they finish eating. I made sure of that so it would be fresh out of the oven. That's how Mother always planned it. Lady Harriet arrives first and I pull out her chair, then bring the soup in. I do the same for Tessa and Clara when they come. Each says thank you. Then Aaron comes in and I repeat the process. He thanks me as well. Next, I dish them each a bowl of the warm soup full of chunks of chicken, potatoes, cheese, and broccoli. They remark on how delicious it smells. I nod and say nothing, like most servants would do. I turn to leave after my work is finished, but Lady Harriet stops me. "Wait," she says, "join us for dinner." You may take the seat next to Clara. The table will feel more even. I'm also sure that Aaron here would feel more included with the space being filled. You know how I feel about empty seats. I head to the table and sit in the chair across from Aaron and next to Clara. Clara smiles at me, clearly glad her mother can't bear to make me wait in the kitchen. I return the smile. Let us say grace, Tessa says, first grabbing her mother's hand, then she grabs Aaron's. Lady Harriet then takes Clara's hand, who takes mine. Aaron and I don't reach across the table to hold hands. That's mostly because when I set the pot of soup down, I set it in front of Aaron, which now is between him and me. I didn't do it on purpose, but can't say that I wouldn't have done it if I had known. Funny how no one says to move it out of the way, not even him. Tessa says the prayer. We echo her amen like normal. After that they eat their meal while I scoop out soup for me. The conversation doesn't begin until I'm finished doing so. So my daughters have told me how dashing the prince is these days. I still remember when he was a young child, Lady Harriet starts. The prince told me a lot about your beautiful family as well, Aaron says, making Tessa and Clara blush. What good fortune. Of course I shouldn't say that until I know exactly what he said. That is, if you're allowed to tell? He said Tessa and Clara were the most beautiful girls at the ball and the most lively. He then told me how he knew them when he was younger. He also mentioned a girl named Ella. Elena tells me that she's now a servant. Lady Harriet's gaze shifts to me. Yes, that is true. Ella's father died not too long ago. We tried to find evidence of a godparent, but there was nothing to be found. I look up from my food and quickly add, yes, but another family bought her, so Lady Harriet used the money to purchase me instead. I'm grateful to service such wonderful women. Aside from the painful past, let's address Amishi's economy. The kingdom certainly has fallen behind financially, but it is making a comeback. Tessa says, full of energy. I can't bite my tongue on this subject, actually it is far from that. The only thing the kingdom has done is raise taxes to pay off debts. It is buried deep into the ground and has lost its citizens and wealth. The king has done nothing aside from chasing magical beings out of Amishi and inciting war with Effa. All because he thinks that if Amishi is going to be a pure kingdom, its people must be perfect. I don't call that making a comeback. There's silence after that. Not a soul speaks. Tessa, Clara, and Lady Harriet look towards Aaron as if he should be the one to speak. It makes sense that he would. I just insulted the king far from what I did before, and he was the one who said he liked the king. Instead of telling us that he will report to the prince not to consider Tessa and Clara for brides, he laughs. And his laugh carries on for quite some time. The rest of us look at each other stunned. I'm sure Prince Edward will say this household is a keeper. Next time, Tessa, you should say what's really on your mind. Elena won't always be there to say it for you, he finally gets out. How do you know the prince will say that? Clara asks. Because that's another reason why he is interested. You all have a mind of your own. It probably would have been fun with Ella here too. She did indeed have a mind of her own, Tessa says, putting her spoon to her mouth. I can tell she's mad at me, so I vow to say nothing else for the rest of the meal. In other words, I pretend I'm busy eating as they continue to talk. This time Tessa shares what she truly thinks about the king's extreme laws. I can tell she actually means it. In a way, it did look like I spoke for her earlier. What a sham. I couldn't wait to get out the pie and have them stuff their mouths full.